All right, we are live. So this is for Fright Night with Ferocious. Fuzzy is going to lead us in a couple moments. Just let you know, if you had watched the town that dreaded Sundown, then you will be a little bit ahead. But I do have the history of it. So Fuzzy, you want to take it?
As he's muted.
Oh,
And
sorry.
there he is.
Yeah, I'm in this echo chamber, so I do apologize. But yeah, we we're going to be talking about the was it the town that dreaded sundown. But before we do, let's introduce our special guests that are here with us tonight. We'll start off with Web Dave. How are you doing, sir? And thank you for joining us tonight.
I am doing fantastic, sir. Very fantastic. So excited to be here. Thank you so much for the invite.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for joining us. And then Silent Cipher, how are you doing today? And thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon and evening, everyone. Thank you for having me back here. A second time. I was afraid that maybe I scared you guys away, so I'm happy to be back. Look forward to the show. This was a fun homework assignment. So I'm looking forward to talking about this a little bit. So yeah, let's go.
Awesome, awesome. And we want to introduce a new to podcasting member, Pismo Beaches. He plays on PlayStation, but also is on Twitter and Instagram and other social media, mainly into horror. Came across him with, I guess, Monster Mania as far as like our common ground. But let everybody know how you're doing and introduce yourself to the listeners.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Excited to see how this goes for a podcast because I really haven't been part of one. So I'm excited. I'm nervous, and we'll just see how it ends up.
And no worries, no worries. Glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. For the most part, this episode is going to be centered around slashers, and one of the slashers that, or actually two slashers that we've kind of watched, or at least watched one of, would be the town of dreaded Sundown. And with that, it has an original one that was made in the 70s that like was set in like the 40s and 50s time period, and then the remake kind of carries on that legacy and is reintroduced in like 2013 time while still touching back to what happened in the 40s and 50s in that town. So with that, Fiona, what are some of the questions or things you'd like to start off with for the for whether it's the original or the sequel?
So I'm thinking that, they were kind of two different takes on it, more so than an original and remake. So there was a lot of kind of pushback on the original not being as accurate as people would have liked it to have been, compared to the history. So, one, did anybody look into the history? And then two, how do you kind of feel about too much license given, when it comes to, these true stories being made into films?
I'll just say that I know that it's. Sorry about the dog in the background. He's pretty excited. I'm on a podcast. Of course, now that I'm talking, it's like loosely based off the story of Ed Gaines, the serial killer in real life, and some of the things that happened. So as far as that goes, then of course with this, I guess it was also adapted even more fictionally to the Texas Chainsaw Massacres type thing. So it's it's very interesting that it is, I guess does have some ties and some roots. And if you ever watch the Ed Gaines, like some of the documentaries on him, he was a sick guy. I mean, he was, and he was brutal, man. He was. I don't even know if the movies can do it justice, to be honest.
Yeah, I did a school report on him, so I'm pretty familiar with his work. Ed Gein, that is.
Sorry, but yeah, Guns.
But yeah, I did a little research because I never heard of either of these movies, to be honest, going into this. So I did a little research, Google, and I was like, said it's kind of semi-based on true stories, and I feel like nowadays that based on a true story is very loose. Where like back in the day when it's based on a true story, it was like pretty accurate. Where now it's like they really stretch the truth with based on a true story. Do you understand what I mean? Agree?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there's, to your point, there's a lot of that quote unquote creative license that a lot of people like to put into things nowadays. You know, you go from where some of that stuff was more tied to the true events, whereas nowadays sometimes it's solely just the person's name, and that's about the only factual thing that's tied to it. So yeah, it's definitely, you know, a lot of people do go wild with the creative license. For this, I had never seen the movies, but I had heard of them. So it was fun to dive into these and see the different takes, and also just the difference in time frame, because both movies are in such a different pace and such a different world. It feels like the town back in the 70s versus when you get the modern version of it. It was definitely it was interesting to see like some of the difference in the gore levels, in some of the things that they were willing to do in the movie versus what the first movie did. Yeah, I don't know. But there definitely was a bit of creative license from what I was reading when I tried to start researching some more of this for the show.
So some of the things that I found very interesting in the history of this particular movie was while they stuck with 8 victims, the I don't want to call it a remake. I want to call it a reimaging. The reimaging of the original, actually the first death was true to the history, but the first deaths in the original were not true to the histories. Even when they were talking about when the Texas Ranger was talking to the doctor and everything like that, he was talking about, oh, well, there was no sexual assault, but actually there was in the history, the first victim. But when I looked into it further for the second victim and further, found out that there wasn't even an autopsy done on the second set of victims, which was really strange at the time in in the 19 because these murders actually happened between 1946 or 1947. So I thought that was interesting that they didn't put that in there, even though they were doing kind of a documentary style to it.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember, but the guy in that first set of killings, I think I was reading and seeing that because they had talked about how he got like yanked out of the window of the car or something, and they said that wasn't factual either to what happened. It's it's interesting to see like where they took liberties on certain things. That feels like the big screen Hollywoodification of the film. Like it's more bombastic if the guy gets yanked out of the window than just, you know, they open the door and they slash his throat or something. Interesting way to approach that.
So what did we think about the setup of how the victims were displayed, how the deaths were carried out in the original compared to what was going on in the reimaging?
Well, it seemed like there were some parallels, like the trombone scenes, where the trombone made its appearance in both the, I guess, the original as well as the remake, which I thought was strange in and itself. Tying a knife to the end of the trombone and stabbing people in the back type of deal. But
Yeah, yeah. That's
out,
a
out,
it, that's strange in itself, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
I don't think I've ever seen a kill necessarily like that in any other movie.
yeah.
But you
But
remember it.
yeah, true, true. It's
I do.
definitely a memorable way to take out a victim and stuff. But I think the big thing was how you could see the progression of the killers in both, going from attacking people in cars to attacking people in homes or in residences and things like that. Although it seemed to accelerate a lot faster with the reimagining, but you could see how the killer, I guess, was either becoming more comfortable or just trying out new approaches. But the attack approach seemed like it had a lot of parallels. Eventually, wound up having a pistol, which probably would have been more convenient for the earlier ones and stuff like that. As far as it looked like he was either beating them with a stick in the early ones of the original versus pistol whipping them or something like that later on type of deal. But yeah, it looked like from a weapon standpoint, they tried to carry some stuff over, and it definitely kind of ties into the ending, I guess you could say, of the reimagining, where it's not as much a continuation, but almost like it reminds me almost like the Scream movies to some extent, as far as where you have a copycat eventually trying to emulate type of deal. But I just loved how bold the actual killer was, as far as just hide in the bushes and watch his victims, and then they try to get out of there, and he either hops on the car or gets to them before they start up and stuff like that. So that was all interesting.
Yeah, I found the reimaging a little bit more gory than the first one. But at the same time, did anybody catch Sparkplug? The problem with Sparkplug.
I'm gonna say I did not.
I'm trying to think back on that character.
So
Like I remembered him calling him Sparkplug, but I didn't really recognize too much else.
Yeah,
So-
they didn't really have a replacement for him in the reimagining, but
Yeah.
he was definitely a
Oh,
comedy
yeah.
relief for the first one to some extent.
So
Yeah.
so he was kind of like when my brother gets to drive a car with one of his insane friends. If everybody probably don't know, except for Fuzzy, my brother's completely blind, and people
Ooh.
have let him drive. And Sparkplug actually reminded me of him, because at some point there's always one person in the friend group that refuses to get in the vehicle with my brother. And that's exactly what happened with Sparkplug. He was the one, he was kind of like, I guess, the comic relief in this. I don't know if he existed or not, but he was definitely the comic relief. He couldn't drive very well, driving fast, puts them into, I guess, a swamp area. And
Yeah.
he's like exclaiming, "Well, why did the road all of a sudden end? It didn't end."
Yeah, he's like, why wasn't there a sign there? And it's like, what? Yeah, he definitely was the comedy relief to, I guess, a topic that at that point in time there wasn't a lot of horror movies out there that really had gone for it and started like bringing on the slasher genre. And so like it seems like maybe the comedy side of that, like having him in there, was to try and help reduce some of the dark nature of it and of the topic.
So do you think we missed that in the second one?
Yeah, there definitely wasn't that same type of thing, right? Like they didn't worry about the idea of it being like too grisly or dark in any form or fashion. They're just like, we're going to go with it. And obviously that just speaks, I think, probably just to the times that we're in, right? Because you've got folks like your Eli Roths, your Rob Zombies, folks like that that do these movies that are very unapologetic for what they are and very unforgiving about what they are. And they don't put any of that type of stuff in it anymore because they're like, hey, you came to see this horror movie, this slasher movie, you know what you're coming in for, right? So like they don't put things like that in, I feel like, to curb the tension or the horror or anything. This new one definitely didn't.
I kind of like, though, when you have a movie that it could be kind of brutal, but there is a comedy relief here and there that you aren't expecting, that kind of comes out of nowhere, that you get a nice little chuckle from. At I'd say the most recent one I've seen probably was Abigail. Like, watching that, it was pretty bloody, but it wasn't like a disgusting bloody like a Terrifier one movie, I'd say. But like, there were still a couple scenes where there's like a nice little comedy relief that I wasn't expecting, but I really enjoyed.
So I think you're muted.
Oops. Can you hear me?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, fuzzy.
Oh,
Sorry. No, I was going to say, yeah, comedy relief definitely lightens the mood and stuff like that. As far as for some of those movies where some of the stuff can be over the top, but sometimes having that somewhat funny moment and type of thing will allow, I guess, it to be either more believable or more relatable to some extent, but it makes it definitely a lot more, I guess, enjoyable at that point, as far as having something to kind of poke fun at. But didn't really have that in the reimagining. But yeah, Sparkplug yelling at people that would call in about dog barking complaints or whatever, the neighbors and stuff like that, and he's yelling at them, and he's supposed to be the police officer at the front desk helping. It's like, yeah, probably shouldn't do that, but sure enough, here he was.
Yeah, he's like that goofy guy at your job that it's not that he doesn't want to take anything seriously. It's just that he just doesn't kind of get it.
you're describing me. That's me. That was me and Fuzzy at Monster Mania, having a great time, goofing around the whole time, not taking anything serious.
Yeah, while I was working, they were having fun.
We got stuff done. We accomplished what we wanted to. We had a good time, and I got invited to be on this podcast, so I did something right.
Yeah. No, it was funny. Just quickly on Monster Mania, you had where some of the celebrities were taking quite a bit of time to hand out or to do like the autographs and things like that, and people were complaining, oh, it's too hot, oh, the rain, oh, this and the other thing. And instead of just letting the time pass kind of deal, just having fun or having conversations with people in line, I think that would have helped pass the time for a lot of them, so they wouldn't complain as much. But yeah, it's always fun when you can joke around with people. Makes time fly by faster.
Well, and you meet people that way. That's what makes it so great. Like you said, time flew by when we were just hanging out in line, just cracking jokes, like making fun of people. Like, it just made time go so much faster. And you're like, oh, wow, I waited in line an hour. Now we're done, kind of thing. Shout out to Skateboard Dude.
We'll have to explain that a little bit later on.
Okay,
Yeah,
my bad. Jumping the gun.
So I want to, I know we talked about the comic relief and we talked about, original, it not going along with, the actual history of it. This happened in Texarkana, kind of really on the border between Texas and Arkansas, in a different time than any of us were actually in. Like, most of us were born in the 70s or later. So we really couldn't even. Yeah, okay.
I'm old.
You're not that old. But
Wanna bet?
we really couldn't see we couldn't really understand the time period because some of these victims were very young, including one that was 15. Um, but when we did the re-imaging, they really took it in a different direction. They kept the teen, but they made the ages closer together, which I actually kind of appreciated because you just don't see that you don't see that most of the time. Young people going with somebody that's 7 to 8 years older and that being accepted. Um, so when we think about the town that dreaded I want to say sunset, but it's sundown. How do you compare that with all of the other serial killer slasher type movies? So, Web Dave.
Well, like we talked about at the beginning, is that it's that it has the roots in real life. That it's tied loosely, but still ties into some real events that happened, and a town that really was kind of when the event happened, they were really freaking out because it really it they had no idea what was going on in the little town. And like I said, if you watch some of the documentary and stuff, there's a bunch of different documentaries on Ed that if it wasn't for a receipt, they probably wouldn't have found out a lot of things. It may have been unsolved because of technology at the time. DNA and all that stuff just wasn't prevalent, wasn't around, so that he actually was able to be able to track him back and talk to him. And then when they got into his house and found all the insane stuff that was going on, it was eye opening for the community. That's the thing that really kind of think that even though the original, people say it's kind of campy, it's kind of, it's but the reason it actually still does good is because it tries to be a partly documentary, partly, it tries to tie in some of the truths and stuff to it, but it's there's so many the genre of, I guess, of slashers, from classics like Halloween and Friday the 13th, those are to me are like really stand out, but this like I said, with these elements based in some truth, is what I think lends to its real popularity to this day. Like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, um, which was also loosely based on this as well, more loosely than anything, but it it was it's still some of the parts in it are kind of like what it's kind of by today's standards it's kind of like it didn't age well, but yet at the time when people saw it, it was like totally shocking and like like I can't believe all this in theaters because it was so graphic, and then brutal, so the things that were displayed at that time. And so yeah, I think it stands up, and I think it's you definitely have to go into it with the mindset that, especially when you watch the original, not necessarily the remake, but or remaster, reimagining, but the original is some parts of it hold up, some parts of it are kind of but if you go into it knowing what you're going to look at as a quote unquote classic, I think it still holds up pretty good, in my opinion.
All right, so we're gonna give Presto Beaches.
So, like I said, I never heard of this movie. You asked me if I want to be on the pod, I had to watch one of them, so I watched the newer one. And I went in. This was one of the few movies where I went in, I knew really nothing about. Like I was just like, I'm just gonna watch this. So when I first started watching it, there's already a jump scare with a couple in the car making out and stuff. But then I was just like, all right, this kind of looks like a cheap version of like a Jason. Kind of looks like a hockey mask walking through the woods. But then you like quickly find out that like this guy runs, he has a knife, he has a gun, like he just doesn't care. He's gonna kill you however he wants. And I was like, okay, this kind of new. Like this for being a couple of years old, this is still refreshing. And like Web Dave said, like it's pretty gory. So for coming out, even this newer one coming out, when did this one come out? 2014 maybe, or am I
13,
wrong?
14, something like that.
So 10 years ago, and some of
Yeah.
the kills they show on here are pretty brutal, where like even watching it now for the first time, I'm like, ooh, that one was bad. Or like the guy all chopped up, or even in the car when, I forget if it was the girl or the guy getting stabbed, but it was like you saw a little blood, then some more blood, then the whole back windshield got sprayed with blood, and I was like, yeah, he got messed up pretty good. So then I started researching a little, like, is this based on a true story? Like what? And I was like, okay, now I'm intrigued. So I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would, and I actually enjoyed it enough that I'm gonna check out the original one and kind of compare the two then. Oops.
I'm not going to have the sound on it though.
All right. Yeah, but he's changing over to his phone or whatever.
That's the trailer. Put it in.
Okay. Don't you have the sound?
I don't want to do the sound. You can continue
Okay.
talking.
Okay. So these are some of this. This is the trailer that Fuzzy put up of the original. So you can see the characters displayed across some of the scenes. They have a prom scene in there as well. So unfortunately, no sound in this one. Oh, wait a minute. I hear something. Okay. So just to show you what this setting looks like and everything like that, daily life going on, and everything, and some of the kills. So as you can see, it is that in that documentary type setting and everything like that. So boarding up the windows. So if anybody remembers, anybody watched the movie, you'll see the progression of the killer, as what Dave and Presto was talking about, that, he went from killing in a car, basically attacking them while they were in the car, to actually doing a sharpshooting through the windows. So the one thing that I want to say is that what popped into my head when I first saw the first kill was the Zodiac killer. Remember the Zodiac?
Yep.
Yeah, that was the first thought that I had. It was kind of similar to the first murder that they displayed in the Zodiac movie. So did anybody get that feel, or were you guys getting a different feel?
Yeah, there was definitely a little bit of that feel to it. And I think part of it, again, I feel like I keep going back to the idea of like the time frame, but I think it just felt, especially because the same thing with Zodiac Killer was like there wasn't a lot that you knew about what was going on. There wasn't a lot of explanation originally when things started happening with that. And it feels like the same thing with this character, where there was really, I think that's where they get some of that surprise and some of that tension and scare, is like there was no real reason as to why these things were happening. No motive, no actual reasoning for why it was happening, just these people dying. And then they're like, oh crap, okay, it's people that are separating themselves off at makeout points and stuff like that, but there was still no real like rationale or like motive for why these things were happening. And that felt a lot like Zodiac to me as well. Is just like, yeah, there were some things that they were going off of, trying to track him down and figure out what their next moves might be, but the killer wasn't giving you a lot of stuff to actually go off of to determine like where they might actually be moving forward. But actually, another thing that I did want to say with it, because you mentioned like the kills and some of. Actually, no. You know what? I'll hold that for later. That'll be it for now.
What was it? Xbox International Podcast was Zodiac. What? The one with Robert Downey Jr. in it. It was just called The Zodiac, I believe. It had Jake Gyllenhaal in it. If you guys ever watched that,
That's a good movie.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was really good.
that was one of my favorite familiar movies that I would just put on whenever I wanted to. What's just my feel about this movie is that Jason stole the killer's sack and used it in Friday the 13th.
Yes.
Yeah.
1,000%, right? So that was something we were actually talking about on our show on Wednesday, because I brought up that we were doing this today, and I mentioned to Louis, like, it surprises me because Sean Cunningham, the creator for Friday the 13th, he has been very well known in the recent years as being like very aggressive with lawsuits for copyright infringement, trademark, things like that. Yet he totally, like, this came a few years before Friday the 13th hit. And so, like, when you went from this to then all of a sudden Jason was rocking the freaking sack over the head, I was like, this, I mean, like, not even just the sack, like, but the costume in general, just the outfit. I was like, you totally stole that from someone else, and yet you are like one of the most aggressive people about like infringement and stuff like that. I was like, dude, what in the world? But to answer, because I see that Xbox International made a comment there, who rocked the sack better? That sounds terrible. But I think it would be Jason. I think it'd be Jason, right? Like, it'd definitely be Jason. I don't know. That's my thought, at least.
Yeah. So Jason didn't actually have the hockey mask until 3, right? Or was it?
Correct. It was three.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was correct.
It was 3. Before it was the sack.
I mean, and the first one he wasn't even in it. So technically,
Spoiler.
Well,
if you don't know about now,
he
dude.
was. He was. But yeah.
Killer, mommy, killer.
So what other movies kind of like do you see? Because we already have Zodiac, we already have Friday the 13th. What other movies can you see that they use this as their inspiration?
Ooh.
I mean, there's a little bit between Texas Chainsaw and even with Halloween, although not as much, primarily because of the locations and stuff. But you did have at least the guy start attacking people in houses, although he used a totally different type of weapon, with it being a firearm to some extent. But yeah, there's definitely, I would say, whether it's the actual real killer that this was loosely based on, just the movie in general, there's a lot of movies out there that probably took some inspiration from.
Yeah, it's mentioned. Wait, Texas came out first. Yeah, it did, but the original murders were on record since 1946, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
when we think about all of these movies and stuff like that, Web Dave mentioned Ed Gein. That right there, yes, Texas Chainsaw Massacre took a couple things from that. But in actuality, there's really not much that Texas Chainsaw Massacre took from the Ed Gein murders. Especially since Ed Gein, his I guess muse or whatever was actually his mom, whereas Texas Chainsaw Massacre was mainly patriarchal dominated. Like, it was really male dominated in that first movie, where the leader was a male. But he actually Bates Bates Motel was also Psycho was also based off of a lot that was going on in the real case of Ed Gein as well, because he started dressing up as his mom and as a woman and stuff like that later on before he got caught. So there's a lot of movies you get from him and his little, I guess, spree. But for the town that dreaded Sundown, like I said, I see some little particular elements from a lot of movies, but I think again Zodiac and Friday the 13th are probably the most that took from them as far as inspiration.
So not so much inspiration wise, but when I watched the newer version, I was watching, I was like, this feels like My Bloody Valentine. Like it was like a nice small
Yes.
everything that I was like, this almost feels like a My Bloody Valentine movie, although the killers are kind of different. Like this one, it's a real killer. My Bloody Valentine is kind of like in his head, but it's still him kind of thing. But that's the vibe I got when I watched this movie.
Yes. Yeah, I actually that's funny you mentioned that, because I was watching My Bloody Valentine yesterday. Not the original. I was having a hard time tracking down the original on streaming services, but I watched the most recent one that they had brought out. And yeah, I got a lot of that feel. Definitely the killer was quite a bit different based on like the storyline and stuff. You actually had some character building for his reasoning and purpose, and like what the motive was before you found out obviously other things towards the end. But yeah, I was watching it and I was like, man, yeah, this reminds me a lot of Town That Dreaded Sundown, just in kind of like the format.
Does not knowing why he killed people in the town that dreaded sundown, does that take anything away from the movie?
No, maybe you guys have a different stance on it, but I almost feel like the cases where someone that, like, there's real no actual explanation to what the motive was, I feel like that's usually scarier, personally, because like the idea of some psycho just out there doing these things and really no rhyme or reason as to why they did it, how they're going to strike again, what their motives are. I feel like that scares me personally more, because that's a killer that you can't predict. That's a killer that you can't really prepare or plan against as much in a scenario like that. So I feel like that gets me more on the edge of my seat.
Kind of like in The Strangers when it's like, why are you doing this? Like, because you were home. Like that's the only reason they gave you the whole movie.
Yeah.
You were home.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that is definitely one of those movies that does that really well, right? Is like there's really no explanation except for because you were home. And that's messed up. Like that gets in your head, is just like, what if I'm the one that's home out there in like the middle of nowhere, and I've got some random person that just, who knows, they just snapped one day, or who knows what their reasoning was, they just decided they wanted to kill some folks. Like that's creepy.
I guess it depends for me, like in a movie aspect. Like if there's really no rhyme or reason, but then the payoff at the end is kind of lame, then it's kind of like, all right, that wasn't worth it. So I kind of like both. Like, for instance, Halloween. So Halloween in the original, it's like, oh, that's his sister. He's going after his sister. Like, it makes sense. And then in the newer one, I guess the 2018 one, you find out that they're really not brother and sister. So then it adds like a different element, because it's that whole, they're not even related yet. He wants to like go after her. Like, so yeah, I could see where it's more scary, more like nobody's safe. Like in the original, it's like, oh, I'm not related to him, I'm good. Where this, it's like, no, I'm gonna leave town for Halloween this time.
Yeah. Well, in Halloween, the original, you didn't know that it was his sister. It was, they alluded that in number 2. So
Sorry.
no, it's good.
No, and then they retconned it and did a bunch of other narratives to go with that too, right? Because like you had number 1, which didn't have that sibling relation to it, and then you had 2 where they started to point towards it, and then you had Halloween H2O, you know, like 5-6 movies down the road where they were still going with like the sibling relation. But then you had like what I think it was 2018 where they came back, and that one went off of just the original movie being there.
Yeah.
So they retconned the whole relationship thing. But then like in what I think 4, 5, and 6, there was a whole thing where he was tied to Thorn, and it was a whole like demonic, like evil pagan thing. Like it's interesting to see how some of these movies, like as they get into more of those sequels, how deep into the weeds they get with some of their storylines. And then sometimes when they revisit, they just retcon everything.
So we have a panel question. Are the kills as good as Friday?
No.
No.
I'll give him credit. The trombone was definitely not what that was trombone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not expect that. I wonder when people saw that film originally in theater, like back when they first saw it, if that was a scary idea to them, the trombone kill. Because when I saw it in both movies, I was just like, this just feels like such a waste of time. Like I kept thinking like, this is how you get caught in the middle of your killing. But also when I saw the first one, I had to remind myself the time frame and period and everything, right? When he put his lips on the trombone and started blowing the trombone piece back and forth, I was like, bro, have you not seen CSI? That is how you get, like, that is how you reveal who you are, by putting your fingerprints and all that stuff on. And then I was like, wait, this was a way different time. They didn't really deal with that stuff at that point. Whatever, never mind. I had to sit myself back and remind myself, like, this is a movie from a different time.
He had some good lungs on him.
Yeah. So DNA didn't come out, like they couldn't really use DNA until the 1980s, and that was sketchy at best, right?
Right.
So when we're thinking about the technology and the fact that they didn't even do an autopsy on the first 2 murders, were they even trying to catch this guy?
Well, the original, I guess, happened in it was a small town. So, I mean, a really small town. So that was probably, didn't necessarily have the resources, and the autopsy was probably just be pronounce him dead type thing. That was, the whole, foul play thing was kind of, didn't quite play into it until until Ed, until he ended up shooting that one lady that he was trying to court, and he shot her in the back of the head in her, in her actual business, but nobody even discovered the body until like 3 or 4 hours after the event, because they didn't have that much business that day until somebody came in looking for her, and then there you go. So it's crazy.
So a lot of people are bringing up Halloween. That was fuzzy. A lot of people are bringing up Halloween and stuff like that, and it just reminds me of Halloween. It's had Rob Zombie created this remake of it, re-imaging of it, and everything like that, but kind of stuck to a little bit of a serious tone, not too campy and stuff like that. But that was not the case with Nightmare on Elm Street and with Jason, with Friday the 13th. How do when we reflect on these, did the campiness kind of destroy some of our liking for it, kind of, for these two, or did it just make it more endearing?
I mean, like I said, the original was at the time when it came out in the 70s. It was kind of, you know, it was still on the edge of cutting edge of, you know, stuff that was acceptable in theaters and stuff. So it was, even though it's campiness, some of it was there. It was probably more a relief to people that were actually watching the movie in the theaters to, you know, to release some of the anxiety that people were, you know, were feeling, especially when you found out that, you know, when they say loosely, you know, based on true events, and you don't know that they're quote unquote loosely based on true events, but then you start thinking, holy crap, this is all real, you know, 100% real at that time. You know, the I guess the true events type thing didn't, they didn't take as many, or people didn't think they were taking as many liberties as they really were. So I would say that it, you know, like the Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, that's its charm is some of the campiness and the silliness and stuff that goes in it.
Exactly.
Although the remake, the one they did, oh my gosh, what's his name? The guy that played
Jackie Earl Haley.
Yes, yeah, he's so good. All I can see him in is the original Bad News Bears. But anyway, that's what I picture him anyway. But he that was more of a serious type approach to it, which is still good, I thought, but it definitely was the without the campiness, it wasn't quite as I don't know. It was good for what it was, and a lot of these movies will either stand on their own or they won't. So,
well, I think with the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, I think that they focused too much on kind of like the pedophilia side, and I think that's what killed it for a lot of people, because that was not really the highlight of, you know, the original. We in fact saw Freddy as kind of a victim in some cases, so I think that's really what killed that.
agreed.
I don't know if I'd say, I mean, for myself, I don't know if I'd say that it really killed it as much as, you know, it was a different approach, right? Like, because when we grew up on Nightmare on Elm Street stuff, yeah, they had never really dug into that pedophilia side of things. And I think honestly, like, it was okay to not have that. But I definitely think with the tone that they were trying to go for the newer one, it worked okay. And like, it was kind of one of those things where it made you rethink a little bit of some of your like fandom or interest in that character, because you're rooting for him to come in and kill these stupid teenagers and blah, blah, blah. And then you find out that there's that, and you're like, oh, maybe this guy really is a monster. So like, they did a good job at kind of turning you on, or like turning you away from that person that, I mean, he was the killer. You shouldn't be the guy that we're excited for anyways, right? Like, in theory, we shouldn't be happy that he's killing these people, but they did a good job at like villainizing him a bit. Differently than what they did with those old ones. And like you said, I mean, I think because of how those old movies were, the humor and some of that campy nature to it, it definitely holds up in your mind more. Like, some of those funny scenes and stuff, they'll stick with you forever, right? Like, the first thing I thought when I got my mask and when I was doing some little video things, all I could think of was the whole line, you know, I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy. When the tongue pops out of the phone and starts like wobbling back and forth at her, like, that's one of those scenes like that, or him walking down the alleyway when his arms stretch out like 20 feet both ways and he scrapes across the walls and stuff. Things like that, because of how campy they were, they held with us. I think some of the stuff like the pedophilia or some of the darker stuff of the newer one, I feel like it's easier to just kind of like file that in, seen it, I'm good. And it doesn't stay with you the same way, right? Because like, that's not the stuff that you really want to find yourself going back to and thinking of. after you see the movie.
And I feel what didn't help with the new movie is it was the first one without Robert Englund. Like he's like one of the few guys that played the character in like every single one. Like Halloween's, you don't have that. Jason's, you don't have that. Texas Chainsaws, you don't have that. I mean, you could go not even like Tony Todd with Candyman. He was at what 1, 2, 3, but not the remake. So like
Right.
when you have 5, 6, whatever, even Freddy vs. Jason, where it's all Robert Englund, as soon as you announce a new one where Robert Englund's not going to do it, it automatically turns people off. Like, and I unfortunately was one of them where I was like, I don't want to see this. So then I was almost nitpicking the movie where instead they were trying like a new twist, and like you said, kind of really focused more on the pedophile, being a pedophile more, I guess, because the one scene that sticks out is when he's like laying in the hallway on top of the girl. He's like, "This is my favorite dress you used to wear." It's like, yikes! Like that line kind of stuck. Like, okay, where Robert Englund would somehow make it comical and be like, "Okay, that wasn't as bad as it sounded."
Yeah.
I mean, he's a great actor or anything like that. But I just don't think people were expecting him to be a replacement for Robert Englund. But here's my question. So Robert Englund said he is done playing the character. I know, as I talked about in the pre-recording I did last week, his hand is shot. He has arthritis, and it's difficult for him to do things. So the question is, he wants to do a prequel. He wants to have somebody in that role, his younger version, to say what happened before he got burnt, and before he died. Who do y'all think should play him?
Ooh. Shia LaBeouf.
Really?
That's a tough one.
Oh no! What happened? What happened? Oh no! How terrible! That's just awful. How terrible! Oh no!
Jagger actually brings up a good point. So Timothy Chalamet from the Dune movies, maybe I could see something like that. But the only reason I say something as like out in left field as Shia LaBeouf is because I know that like he dives into his characters so heavily when he dedicates himself to those characters. I find it would be kind of interesting to see him do even just a horror movie in general. I think he's done a couple thrillers, but yeah, I mean, I'm joking in the fact that like I don't think he'd be able to make that character something we'd want to see.
You
But it
want
would be
Jared
kind of
Leto.
funny.
You want
Oh,
Jared Leto.
no.
Do.
Listen, I have no problem with him in Fight Club as Blondie. I have no problem with him in that. That's
There you
fine. I don't need him in all of the movies, and I certainly don't need him in a new Tron. Damn it.
What about Joaquin Phoenix? Seems like every role he does, he like
Joaquin. Yep.
he really dedicates himself to his roles, like with the weight loss and just body transformations and the character and the Joker. Like the fact that the Joker came out how long ago, and he got himself in that mindset, and then another one's coming out soon, and he had to get in that same mindset. Like he's an amazing actor, and I feel like he would be able to do it justice.
Yeah, that's a good serious answer. I agree.
So
it's no Shia LaBeouf, but it's pretty good.
So Fuzzy, what do you think?
This is going to sound like a weird one, but Cillian Murphy
Oh yeah.
Who?
from 28 Days.
Yeah, and from Tron Legacy and from what's that? It's that TV show Peaky Blinders.
Oh, he has those blue eyes.
He played a Scarecrow. Is that the guy you're talking about?
Yeah, he was
And
Scarecrow
Batman.
also.
Okay, no, he's good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
or
would you-
Red Eye.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Now, would you rather have someone established or some like underknown person so you can't judge them to play
I don't.
Freddy.
Yeah, I don't know. I think DJ Qualls looks more like Robert Englund in a way. His frame and stuff like that. And he is a really good actor. He's young enough to kind of play the role at this point, but not too young that it would be, kind of absurd. Timothy Chalamet, he played in Bones and All, which is kind of a drama, but at the same time, it does have horror elements. I think that's the closest he's come to playing it. But I definitely don't think Chris Pratt. I think I'm a little tired of Chris Pratt being in a whole bunch of things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Louis,
It's me, Freddy.
Louis joking with you in there. Yeah, he's just joking. Chris Pratt is in everything. We don't need that at all.
I think Louis needs to be.
Louis is Freddy. Ooh,
Sure. Yeah.
we could do that. You know what? I probably could Photoshop that
That'd
together.
be so awesome. That'd be so awesome. Careful what you wish for there, Louis.
he's like, Sarblo, I'm your boyfriend now.
Scary thoughts.
Sorry.
But somebody that's we're unfamiliar with, that doesn't have a background yet, that hasn't had kind of been pigeonholed into something. I mean, that's not a bad idea. I mean, look at Brad Pitt. When he was on Freddy's Nightmares, the TV series that they came out with. Trying to think, he did. Trying to think, the Black Ticket or something like that with Bill Moseley in it. And he was actually pretty good. I mean, he doesn't do a lot of horror stuff, but he was good in there as a victim. So you never know what somebody can do unless you give them a try. So
actually, you know what? Now that we're kind of talking about it more and like people diving into a character, because I just saw that trailer. Forget the name of it, but there's a new one with James McAvoy in it. And that movie looks nuts. And so like if you wanted to go a more serious, a more intense, like scary direction, you could put him in there. Now granted, if you did something like that, like he'd have to cut down a bunch, because right now he's like just a giant muscle. But he has played characters where he's been pretty thin, pretty scrawny. So I think he could do the body style. But when he goes for like those scary ones, be it, what was it? He was in that Split, exactly. Like you look at him in there also, and that was jarring. But just like this new one that he's got coming out, you see him and he can definitely ratchet up that creepy, scary, like just unpredictable nature. Like I could see that working out really well. Or Shia LaBeouf.
Jesus. Let it go. Just kidding.
okay, so what did you guys think of the movie overall? Liked it? Didn't like it?
I liked it. I mean, like I said, you go into the mindset that it's classic, and then when it was made, the 70s, type thing. Then yeah, I think it's worth a watch if you've never seen it before. As long as you don't expect it to be on high end graphics and amazing acting. I mean, even what's the original had the lady. I think her only other role, she was Mary Ann in Gilligan's Island. So she's in the movie. Dawn something, I can't think of her name, but yeah, so it is what it is, but it's worth watching if you're into horror movies and you want to complete your catalog, as it were. It's definitely worth watching.
Well, I think it's better than that. I mean, I definitely enjoyed it. I've seen a lot worse.
I've definitely
Veronica
seen a lot
Cartwright
worse
was
too.
in it also.
Wait, Oh, that's in the new one. Yes. Yeah, in the
Yeah,
new
in the
one, it
new
was
one. Sorry.
the girl's mom. Yeah.
And
Um.
that Anthony Anderson, he's been in like Law and
Oh yeah.
Order and other stuff. So it does have some big people in it.
The old one definitely had a bunch of folks that we never really saw anymore, or if we did, we saw them on just like TV shows that you know ran for a little bit, and we just never saw them in stuff. But some of the folks in the newer one, yeah, they've actually had some careers and continue to do stuff. Um, yeah, the first one was good. I I'm not gonna lie, I felt like they were going to cut it short when we got to the end of that one. I'm not going to say any spoilers in case there are folks that like Louis that haven't seen it, but I thought they were going to cut it a little bit short, and I was really happy and relieved when I saw that that was not where it was going to end. Um, the new one, like again, no spoilers, but as someone who's injured their ankles, knees, legs a lot over their life, um, the person messing up their leg made me physically hurt for a second. After I saw that, I was like, "Dear God!" Like that made my leg hurt. But no, I liked them both, and I would definitely recommend someone watch them for sure. Temper expectations and don't expect that they're going to, like be the be all end all, but as I mentioned earlier, and I was really stoked when Fuzzy told me about it in the first place, is you can go watch both of these on Tubi for free. And they've got the app on Xbox, mobile, they've got it all over the place. So if you decide that you want to watch it, it's really easy to get a hold of, which is nice. Some of these films are not as easy to get a hold of. We ran into it with The Exorcist when we were doing that episode like a month ago, where it's tricky to find like the original, but you can find a lot of the sequels. So it's cool to see both of those on the same service, so you can dive in.
And the newer one is also on Amazon for free. So if you have an Amazon Prime membership, you can watch. That's where I watched it on.
Oh, perfect. Yeah,
No
and then you don't have
commercials.
the ads.
Yeah.
So just to go off of what Silent Cypher said, I found out actually somebody put in the comments that Exorcist recently got a 4K release. So that probably is what pushed it out of the free stage.
Yeah, that would make sense. That's usually doing it. Like if there's a money grab coming, that'll do it. But a 4K version would probably look really good.
They
So
just
maybe I'll just have to snag it.
they're doing the Nightmare on Elm Street, the original 4K release, but it bothers me a little because the artwork on the steelbook is really nice. But if you look at it, Freddy's sweater, the sleeves have stripes on it. But if you're a fan of the original, in the first one, his sleeves don't have the stripes on it yet. So it's like they're almost using an image from the second one to put on the first one, and that stuff just bothers me.
That's an interesting catch. Yeah, yeah, that would definitely mess it up a little bit for you. Are they doing just the original, or are they doing all of them in 4K?
As of now, I only saw that they were doing the
first.
original. It was like I saw an ad. They were like doing Nightmare on Elm Street, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and one other one where they were doing a 4K release. And yeah, when I saw the Nightmare on Elm Street one, I was like, it's not accurate. That's like almost releasing Halloween in 4K and like having the silver shamrock mask on the cover or something. Like, don't do that.
No. That would be way more egregious.
Okay, maybe the mask from Halloween 2 with the blood coming down the eyes.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The dirtied mask.
Yeah, from all the cigarette smoke or whatever under the bed they said.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I'm just trying to see if I can avoid the echo.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, sorry about that.
There we
It's
go.
all good.
If you're gonna stay in the same room.
Hot mic.
Hot mic.
Just in case.
but you can still say bad things about Silent Cipher. It's okay. What?
Absolutely.
It's okay.
That's what I'm here for.
Silent, you're the best, buddy. I'm just teasing.
No, you're the best.
Of course. Just kidding.
This got weird. Let's talk about horror movies for a second.
I
they're
thought we
figuring
were.
things out.
So I guess
Sorry
let
about
me
that.
ask you.
I think we
Oh.
got it resolved now.
There you go.
No, but I definitely like the second one a little bit more than the first one. Although, given for the time of when it came out, the first one was a lot better than I expected. Not that I don't expect much from a non-big budget 70s movie, but like for a smaller movie from that time period, they knocked it out of the park, I would think. The ending, they kind of left it open to some extent. So, no, once again, no spoilers, but it delivered what I expected, or better than what I expected. But for the newer one, the thing that I did like about it was it wasn't as predictable as a lot of movies where you have a sequel, you know about the killer, or you have a pretty good idea how it's going to end. I like that this one kind of took a couple of turns or twists here and there, but it wasn't like a big budget film, but it was still enjoyable. I like the fact that there were a couple of like weird cases where you did have somebody, and this isn't really a spoiler, but you had somebody dress up as them trying to commit suicide. So yeah, things like that usually you don't see in some of the modern films where it's like, oh, well, it would just be some loony dressed up as him, but no, this okay, he had a suicide note at his dorm and blah blah blah, and it kind of took a weird turn type of thing. But overall, I was satisfied with them. They're worth a watch. I wouldn't say expect anything near like a Friday the 13th or like a Halloween or anything like that, but these I would say are pretty good as like a preparing you before you get to the big boy screens or the bigger blockbuster type slashers and things like that. So I was entertained, not disappointed, wound up better than expected, but I kind of like the second one just a smidge better. But given the time period for the first one, I think they did a darn good job.
So, total side note on the new one is there's 2 sex scenes, I would say, at least in it, that totally threw me for a loop. Like, you see horror movies like Friday the 13th where it's always like the normal campy hookup scene, but the 2 scenes in this one,
Please tell me the sofa or the lazy boy. Okay.
Yes, that one. Like the first one that was earlier in the movie was good. It was different, but then the sofa one, I was just like, all right. And then you see where it goes. You're like, oh shit. And then like how it ends and escalates. You're like, oh man, like I haven't seen that in a movie before like that. Like normally it's always like, what's that sound? And then they stop and they investigate or something. Like, no, not this time. Without spoilers. Like I don't. That scene alone was good enough to watch the movie for.
Yeah, yes, there were a couple definitely memorable moments like that, right? Like, I don't want to say too much, but like, I don't know if we can say anything bad on here, but okay, I think the kids aren't listening. Like car blowjob. You just think like, man, the person just wants some love, and then
can't we all just get along?
Yeah, exactly, right. I was like, oh, that's so sweet.
Silent, can you hum a few bars of that? Never mind, sorry.
Like give me some of that love.
No,
something like that.
Oh, goodness.
But the lazy boy. Can I just say shout out to Gary Cole because when I saw him in this movie, in the new one, I was like, dude, this is amazing. But all I could think when that scene was happening, it brought me right back to Office Space, and all I could picture him saying was, yeah. I'm gonna have to have you come in on Saturday. Yeah,
I
like that's
mean,
all I
It's
can
my
think.
stapler. It's my
In that-
stapler. Don't touch my stapler.
I mean, if I'm gonna go out, I want to go out like that guy, living the best life.
Right?
Like, I mean, without, like we said, without spoilers, but like, he had a beer, he was having a good time. The girl you
was.
feel bad for, like the girl, it's like, oh, and then eventually, yeah. So it was very interesting.
Yeah.
You wanna say
Sorry,
something?
that
Yeah,
just
the only thing
those
missing was a
very
steak.
memorable. A steak? Yeah, I'm just gonna need my beer and a steak, and if you could just turn in that TPS report, that'd be great. Thanks.
So I will say there was definitely, I would say there was actual sex in the second one compared to the first one. So if you're looking for the full horror experience, yeah, this one had it. It's got everything. I didn't think it was bad. It kept Fuzzy awake. He usually falls asleep on some of the movies, but
Dang. Getting
it
called out.
definitely kept him awake.
Uh-huh.
We watched them back to back. He's laughing
to-
over here.
Back to back. Wow, that is dedication.
Yeah, that's. Whew.
Yeah, wait until we talk about again zombies. Let's do 2
Yeah.
or 3 movies back to back.
Zombies. Yeah, okay.
But this one overall, it seems like everybody at least enjoyed the second one. Those that watched the first one didn't think it was bad either. So this is definitely better than Festival of the Living Dead response. I can't, get Deadpool his 2 hours back. Yeah.
Dreadpool deserved what he got himself into. He knew what he was doing and he enjoyed it. Don't let him fool you. Shout out to Dreadpool.
Yes. So besides movies and stuff like that, just wanted to kind of recap what we've been doing for the past few weeks. Fuzzy's getting a little tired of me, just letting you know.
Typical.
I doubt that.
So let's see, what did we do in July?
Was that the movie thing, or was? Wait, what did we do in July?
Yeah, it was a movie thing. So Presto, Fuzzy, and myself, we went to the Queens of the Dead film shoot. And it was pickups and the big horde scene. So we were actually able to go to both days. There was a lot of moving around. Originally, it was supposed to be early July, then it became July 18th, and then it was supposed to be I think the 21st or 22nd or something like that. And then it got switched to the 26th and the 29th. And then we just did the horde scene. We were supposed to do the horde scene, and we were also supposed to do the outbreak scene, but that got put into just the horde scene. So that was a lot of fun. And everything like that. And, just trying to coordinate everything. That's how we met Presto. So, do you want to, say a few things about that one, and then we'll talk a little bit about Monster Mania and stuff like that, because we are now at New Jersey Horror Con, and we'll, let you know what's going on with that. So, Presto, you want to say a few things about what happened?
So it was very eventful. It was fun. I was only on a movie set once before, and it was like 2 blocks from my house. So it really didn't feel official because I legit walked up the street. I don't know if any of you ever heard the actor Daniel Roebuck. He's in all of Rob Zombie's movies. He actually shoots his own movies, and he was filming a Christmas movie in July, or no, Christmas movie, yeah, in like June or July. So we had to dress up like it was wintertime, and it sucked. But this one, I was like, zombie, like I never played a zombie. Let's do this. So the first night we were supposed to be there at 11:30 at night, and they postponed it till 1:30 in the morning. So I'm not really a night person. I'm in bed by 9:30. I'm at 6, work 10-hour day. It's a little rough, but yeah, that's basically where I met both of them. And the first night was a bit painful. We basically just sat around up until, what was it, like 4:20, like 40 minutes before the sun came up, and then they finally took us to shoot. But there was they brought a coffee truck, they had snacks for us, and then I gave a shout out to Skateboard Kid. There was a skateboard kid that showed up that, like, me and Fuzzy think he was just skateboarding down the street and decided to pop in, like didn't even know what was going on, messing with the crew, like someone's backing up a car. He's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Just screwing with you. Like, he was just out there. But it was shot in Paterson, New Jersey. And if you want to film a movie in a zombie outbreak, I would say Paterson, New Jersey is your cheapest bet because you don't have to do any decorating. Shout out to everyone that lives in Paterson, New Jersey. We love you, but a little scary. So then we only did like 40. We did 2 scenes, I believe, the first night. Was that correct? Fuzzy?
Yeah,
Or...
you did too.
Yeah, so we did 2 scenes, and then we had to show up again Monday night, and it was at a different location where we were actually trying to get into the club. And that was another one where we showed up at 11:30 at night, and they used us maybe a little after 2, and we shot from like 2 to 4, and then they let us go home. We were done, but I think that was also the last day of filming. So filming has now wrapped, and I believe that there's a distributor that picked it up, and they also said that it will be out. They're trying to get it picked up for Sundance. I don't know when Sundance Film Festival is, but then
It's
also
in January.
okay, because
We
they're
actually
trying
have
to.
that out here.
Oh, that's perfect. Maybe you'll get to see it.
Hopefully.
And then otherwise, it's going to come out between like summertime and Halloween. So it also seems like she kind of took from the little we know, like it has a good cast also, but she took what her dad did and made it into her own. Like, there's some drag zombies. I mean, it was early in the zombie apocalypse, so like we're not all disgusting looking. Like, there wasn't even, at least the 2 times we were there wasn't even blood on the set. Like, there was no blood at all. So it was a really fun experience. We got to meet Tina Romero, got a picture of her. Some of the cast is there. Everyone was very friendly, and it was a really good time, I'd say. I don't know if you guys want to add anything to it.
Just that, like you said, with the skateboard guy, honestly, he probably heard of it or just saw that there was a line of people and just decided to join that line, got himself some free coffee, and was asking people about, how did you hear about this? And like everybody, I guess, gave him answers just in case somebody questioned him. It was like, oh yeah, I found out this on this website, or I found out this through an email. It's like, oh, an email? Yeah, okay, yeah, I got that email. It's like, wait a minute, are you sure you got that email? But no one really questioned him. But it was kind of funny just having him there for kind of like comedy relief to some extent. And like Presto said, that part of Jersey, yeah, you could probably take some of the people that aimlessly cross the street high on whatever they're on, and make them into zombies as well. But outside of that, the set was great. The people on set were great. Look forward to seeing this sometime in the summer or Halloween of next year type of deal. But it was a good time. The second day was a bit better because there wasn't as much time sitting around. Although we probably got some sort of like lung infection from the mold at the one place that they had us sitting in for a bit. But we went outside, watched the filming for a bit.
Let's be honest. You say it wasn't as bad or long. I'm not sure. Spread rumors, but someone might have been napping in the chair outside. That's all I'm saying.
Well, no, at least we got to watch some of the filming a little bit closer before, they had us wandering around trying to get into the club as like aimless zombies and stuff. But it's going to be a pretty cool take on zombies with cell phones, because we are kind of like zombies walking around with our cell phones these days. But yeah, it should make for an interesting zombie movie. But that was pretty cool. I guess end of July and stuff like that. But let Fiona talk about what we did recently over at Monster Mania a bit, and then hand it right back over to you, Presto.
Okay. No. We gotta talk about the Wendy's first.
Okay.
Hold on a second.
Hold on once. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of people asking for change at my car window when I'm stopped at a light, but there was like a shirtless guy wandering around, and it looked like, I guess, he decided he was going to light up a joint for inspiration or courage or whatever the case was before we even got to the Wendy's. And like the first time, we went to Wendy's, ordered our food. They forgot a fork for Fiona's food and a couple other things, so we had to come back. The first time we went there was just, the average guy, like, hey, you have $1. I'm like, sorry, no, I don't keep cash on me, kind of thing. But he was polite, and we drove off. But the second guy was a lot more bold and a lot more, I guess, pressing, because like I said, he decided to walk around without a shirt. Gold chain, though. Let's not forget that. And lit up his joint, asked for money. Nope, sorry, can't help you. So we come around to the Wendy's, and he actually, I guess, gets to the Wendy's at the drive-thru, chases off the original guy, and he's like, yeah, I just need $1. I guess he conned the car that was in front of us for $1, but, it was just not the best Wendy's experience. And it looked like, I guess, the employees at the drive-thru were kind of used to this kind of thing, where you might have a more aggressive panhandler. But I would say for the most part, if we weren't in a rush to get to like the set and stuff, it might be like, all right, I'll just order them a cheeseburger or something along those lines. Not giving them cash, but it was weird going from your average panhandler to a guy shirtless, gold chain, and joint in hand, and demanding the same stuff. So shout out to what was it, Patterson, Jersey? Yeah. Shout out to Patterson, New Jersey. Hey, we love you guys out there, but wow, that was different. I haven't had that in a while. So that's all.
Yeah, when I told people, they were like, oh, where'd you go film? I was like, Patterson. They're like, oh. I was like, yeah. Yeah, and the guy also had brand new Jordans on unreleased yet somehow. I don't know.
So I've been with Fuzzy for over 27 years now, and I can tell he did not like Patterson, New Jersey. He's like, this is the whole reason why we moved out of Darby. I didn't even want to be close to Philly, and you brought me right back in. He's like, Sunday.
He's like, we were moving on up, and you brought me back to this.
Yeah, I'm like, I gotta get that significant other compensation package out.
You were just
To get
showing him like, hey,
Anyway.
And Rusto helped. He helped because he was he's like, my buddy's got to come back. He's got to hang out with me. And then it was like, oh well, I don't know if I can show up because I go to bed at like 9 at night. And I was like, you got Fuzzy to come back, and now you're not going to show up. And he's like, well, I guess I'm going to have to now.
I was not going to show up for night 2. And I went to work that day on that Monday, and I worked 6 to 4:30, and I got home 8. I tried napping, and then I just had to drive to Patterson, and I was hoping we would have got that email. It's like, filming's postponed to 1:30. It's like, yeah, I can nap now, but yeah, I came home and I crashed. I crashed hard.
Yeah,
But yeah,
so
me.
go on.
Oh, I was gonna say, me and Fuzzy got along great. I mean, by the end of night 2, I think you were the third wheel.
I think I'm still the third wheel.
Well, I didn't want to say it. Fuzzy's. He has to deal with you. I don't.
Pismo
It's
jumped
like
in, was like, I'm taking out my significant other package now. Oh, too soon? Okay.
I'm just telling you, it's like they knew each other for like forever. These two, I'm like working, and they're like talking to each other like they haven't seen each other in like a month or something like that.
It was like a week, so it was pretty rough. No, it wasn't even a week. It was we filmed Monday into Tuesday, and then I saw him Friday.
You were having withdrawals.
Actually, today's been a week since I saw Fuzzy. Oh man, we should probably FaceTime after this then.
Yeah. So Fuzzy wound up with a new buddy, and I wound up with bruised ribs coming off of this this photo, this filming shoot. So yeah, I think Fuzzy lucked out more than I did.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna
Good
bring
God.
I wasn't gonna bring it up, but might as well tell him now.
Well, you guys are probably gonna have to, add to it because I only really remember trying to. So we're coming back. We're done, right?
Night 1.
Yeah, we're night 1. We're done. They get us out there at they start at 4:58. They're supposed to have us done by 5 o'clock at the latest, and we're just going over there at 4:58 in the morning. So we're there for I don't know, not even 20 minutes, doing a couple scenes and everything like that, couple scenarios. They're positioning us and everything and filming. And then everybody's excited and we're jumping over and taking photographs with everybody. And we're leaving now. And what do? This whole entire night, I'm standing in wedge heels. Basically, it's not like a real heel; it's just like a platform. And next thing I know, I lose my footing, and I'm starting to tumble to the ground. And I wind up. I don't know. They can better explain it to you. I wind up, instead of falling on my knees, I wind up falling on my back. And Fuzzy's trying to pick me up. I'm like, no, wait. Because I want to make sure, I didn't actually break anything or anything like that. And when I get up, the pain is in my side is pretty bad. So yeah, not graceful at all. And I just fall and everybody's seeing me. So yeah, that's my embarrassing moment.
I don't even
sounds
know
painful.
what really happened. I just looked over, saw you rolling and on your back, and I was like, "What the hell are you doing now? Come on, get up." And you're like, "No, I need a moment." And then the medic came, and she had a cut on her finger, and she got taken care of nicely, though.
Yeah, I was picking gravel out of that wound just the next morning. He just slapped some Bactine on it.
I mean, he wanted to amputate it, so I think
I
he did all
mean,
right.
I mean, it is Patterson, New Jersey, but might I remind you? So
Yeah,
the
you're lucky
fact he
you
didn't
have your
just spit
finger.
on it instead.
That's what she said. What?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
she probably got
Couldn't
like
resist.
some homeless man's piss in her finger or something, like, because some of those alleys, they were just ooh,
Yeah.
yikes.
He's like, I found this in a Gatorade bottle down the hallway.
Yeah. It's like, look at these needles. This set is so awesome.
I better take these home for my own personal collection. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then what? We did Monster Mania. So if anyone doesn't know, Monster Mania is a convention in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. They do 2 in Cherry Hill, New Jersey a year, 1 in Oaks, PA, and 1 in Baltimore, Maryland, I believe now. And I guess it's a horror convention, but they do have some actors that maybe aren't so much in horror. Like they had Henry Winkler, the Fonz there. I mean, he's been in Scream as the principal, but people are a little crazy. They were supposed to have the guy from The Boys there. I don't watch The Boys, so I don't know what Anthony Starr, is that his name, or
Homelander.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
I
one.
think he had to cancel for some reason. Personal
yeah.
stuff.
We have
So-
no idea why he
happens.
canceled. No idea why.
So the main ones, I guess, was Robert Englund. They had like a mini Nightmare on Elm Street reunion, and then they had Clyde Barker. I guess this is his farewell tour because of his health. So they had like a Hellraiser reunion. So those were the main 2 celebrities up in the ballroom, or up in the second story, where everyone else was either the small room up front or the ballroom in the back. Yeah, Fiona had to work, so I got to hang out with Fuzzy all day. So I have a group of friends that I met at these conventions that like we always meet up, but they didn't go this time. So having Fuzzy was great. Like we just hit it off. We hung out. He didn't want to meet anyone, so he just stood in line with me the whole time. And I'm a huge Scream fan. Like Scream is my number 1 franchise. So like I'm a sucker to meet anyone from any of the Screams. And they had, can we give spoilers away on this or no?
Well, yeah.
Okay, so they had the Mikey Madison, I believe. She's the killer in Scream 5. And then they had Melissa, who was like the new Nev Campbell in 5 and 6. She's in Abigail, that I really wanted to meet. And then in the 6th one, also the guy in the beginning, I forget his name. He was in Spider-Man also. Forget. But so I was able to meet the 3 of them. And then I also love Jeepers Creepers. And there was I think Sophie Bacon or something canceled from Smile, the movie Smile. So instead they got Jonathan Beck from Jeepers Creepers, which I love Jeepers Creepers. So for me, that was like a bonus. So Fuzzy was right there with me the whole time. And then those 2 had a photo op with Robert Englund. And I met Robert Englund at a previous Monster Mania. So I was like, I don't need to meet him, but they were nice enough to invite me with their photo op. So I got to meet him again. So, and then we had dinner. It was a very nice Friday for me for Monster Mania. And I didn't have to go back Saturday or Sunday. So I was pumped. Got in, got out, saw Fuzzy, had dinner. Life was good.
Yeah, the draw was fuzzy.
Well, you were working, so I mean, it's tough. I mean, Fuzzy? What did you like? Did you have fun? I mean, we hung out Friday, but then you were there Saturday and Sunday, and she was working. So what did you do?
I wound up just like going to some of the shops and things like that. I think I got a T-shirt, or maybe we got the original event T-shirt, and checked out a few things at some of the other vendors. hung out in the lobby. Hung out with Fiona for a bit when she was able to take like a break and stuff like that, and then I did some other podcast stuff while in the hotel room upstairs. But watched some TV, hung out at the convention for a bit, went to the shops, and then hung out also at the little bistro or little restaurant that was downstairs. Tried some of the stuff there. By the way, their cheesesteaks aren't as good as a regular Philly cheesesteak, but their pizza is not bad, but it's it's acceptable. But their burger was pretty decent. Like I forget what they call it. It was like the Psycho Killer burger or something like that, where you could pick the type of cheese you want, lettuce, tomato, onions, and it's cooked how you want it on like I forget what kind of roll, but it was more of a roll than a bun type of deal. But other than that, just had fun that whole weekend. Chilling in line with you and some of the other people in line, just cracking up at one fan. I guess you could say was a super fan from Melissa. I'm pretty sure,
creeper dude.
I'm pretty sure she contacted her security about him. Not knocking the guy, but he had like pictures of her like in a collage where it was 3 different instances, and then the one in the middle was like in the shape of a heart. And I could tell when he was carrying that poster for her to sign, she first had like this weird look. And then as soon as she saw that other people were watching her look at it, she was like, "Oh, wow, that's awesome," kind of thing. But I'm pretty sure there's probably a protection order or something that was set up shortly after. But all of the celebrities that were there were kind and took their time talking to everybody that were getting autographs and pictures and stuff. The only one that I thought was weird was William Shatner not being next to anybody, but then again, he is like 93 years old, and I'm pretty sure he's, if he was to get a cold from anybody there, he might not be with us anymore. So it's kind of understandable, but the photos just look kind of weird with him being all the way off to the side kind of deal. But
Well, the weird part
it
with that
was an awesome time.
Well, that guy you also forget had a custom made T-shirt with Melissa's face on it that he wore. So that was creepy. But
Had locks of
Shatner
hair into it.
probably did. William Shatner, he's a tough one to figure out because, like, I think it was last year he did Steel City Con, and his photos were like you had to distance yourself and everything. But then the very next week, he went to Pandora's Toy Box and did a meet and greet there, and people were like hugging him and standing right next to him in pictures. And then he did Chiller last year, and you could stand next to him and take pictures. So it's like he almost like picks and choose. Like this one, Clive Barker, because of his health, they said, if you want to meet him, he's not doing selfies at the table, but you have to wear a mask, and he's wearing a mask. But then if you're doing the photo op with him, he was not wearing a mask for that. So yeah, William Shatner seems to be one of those weird ones that just kind of like makes up his own rules as he goes along. But
he could also be a pay scale as well too. They may have to pay him more to be that friendly and open compared to just having him show up. Just saying, some celebrities are like that. I mean, he's a treasure. So
yeah,
he
you're lucky to get anything with him is pretty much awesome. So
he didn't seem very talkative either. Like in the beginning, he had a huge line, and within like a half an hour, we could have walked up and met him. It was like, "Oh, Shatner's gone." It's like, no, just no one's at his table right now.
I think one of the only times when I saw him like really open up when I've seen different cons that he's been involved in was we had one of the Fan Fest ones out here in Salt Lake. This was years ago. This would have been like 15 years ago ish. But it ended up it was him, and then oh goodness, I'm trying to remember because they had like Superman, they had some other ones, but he was there, and he was like super chatty. But I actually saw one where it was him and Adam West, and it was an evening with William Shatner and Adam West, and they basically just were sitting there up on the stage just roasting each other.
That would be awesome.
And that was freaking amazing. It bums me out because it was one of those, it was back when like it was easier to restrict people from having phones there for taking pictures and stuff like that. And so like I don't have anything from theirs, but I have a bunch from when I saw Dean Cain like right beforehand. But I wish I had gotten more of Adam West and Shatner because like their conversations were hilarious and they were God, they were raunchy old men. Like it was hilarious to listen to their conversation. They went some places with some of their relationships and some of their conversation that you're just like, what did I what did I just hear?
I feel like from Scream or whatever franchise, like when you have Matthew Lillard, Jamie Kennedy, and Skeet all by each other, they just feed off of each other and they just do the same thing. They just rip on each other while they're doing autographs, and it makes it so much fun to just be in line and listen to stories and see them interacting with each other that like it's not as bad to wait all the time. But one thing that's a pet peeve for me, and I think me and Fuzzy talked about this, is the people that stand like I'm in line to meet someone and I'm creepily taking pictures of the person I'm going to meet in like 10 minutes anyways, just for whatever reason. Or if I don't want to meet them, I'm just going to like stand on the side and take a picture of them anyways. Like that's just a pet peeve. And I feel like that's like poor convention etiquette, like the unwritten rules. Like don't be that person. You're the reason why some of these celebrities don't like doing these.
So some of the things about Monster Mania, about this particular Monster Mania, was one, I don't think Shatner has really anybody that he used to go to conventions with, those other celebrities and stuff like that. I don't think he has that anymore. And you can kind of see it. It's the same thing we experienced with John Lovitz when he was over at the March Monster Mania. If they don't get a particularly good spot, John Lovett's case was, he was by the door, so it was cold, but he also really wasn't near anybody that he knew that he could, talk to and stuff like that. Same with William Shatner. He left early, actually on the first night because he wasn't getting as much love from the fans. And at first, there were a lot of people in the line, but Fuzzy pointed out, I don't think he didn't think they were all for William Shatner. There were a lot there for Melissa. And
yeah, there was.
Yeah, and also the price difference was huge between the two. I don't know how much Melissa was exactly, but I can tell you William Shatner was anywhere between 120 and 180 for his autograph, whether you wanted a quote or not. And he did start doing photo kind of selfies at the table and stuff like that, but it was kind of like the lean in type one, which also Doug Bradley was doing it. But I think the way that William Shatner was doing it was kind of off-putting to some of his fans. And it was $100 just for that. So I think the overpricing, and then people were commenting, well, he's going to be in King of Prussia in September. I can just wait for him to go there, because the pricing that they do at one convention is not the same pricing they're going to do at another. And it might not even be more expensive. It might be cheaper. I know that Greg Nicotero, when we went to the Living Dead weekend, he gave us a selfie for free. And I think it was like not even $40 for his autograph. And that was him, providing the photo as well, the 8x10. So, he also had a lot of big names. Juliette Lewis was there, which she'll be at the October one too. So in case you missed her. There was also Henry Winkler, like Presto had said. Robert Englund was there, and I think this is his farewell tour as well, because like I said, he has arthritis. I know. Clive Barker was there as well, and Melissa from Scream. So there were a lot of people. And then, of course, Heather Langenkamp, she's still popular, and so is Doug Bradley. And the thing about it, Doug Bradley, is he'll go overtime on the last day if you let him. Like, he had a line, and he just keeps on signing. He keeps on talking to people. He actually had one fan that kind of was visibly upset, and he was just hugging him for like forever. Like, he's just a very really great guy, and so is Heather Langenkamp. She's one of the favorites that goes there. But if you want to know what's happening on it on for October, there are a lot. Not only is the three that Presto mentioned are coming, Jamie Kennedy, who were the other
Matthew
two?
Lillard
Yeah.
coming. Roger
And
L. Jackson, the voice of Ghostface. Lee
Uh-huh.
Waddell, who played Ghostface.
David Arquette was.
Yeah, he just got announced.
Yeah, David Arquette's going to be there. Juliette Lewis is going to be there. So there's a lot. And
Rose McGowan's going to be there.
Yep, and Laurie Metcalf. She's going to be there as well. So they have a lot of people coming out. And then in November, it's going to be Tom Skerritt is going to come from Aliens, and they have a few others coming from Aliens, like Paul Reiser and Michael Ben, and Danielle Harris, I think, is going to be there as well.
And Scout.
What, Scott Jackson?
No, Scout.
Scout. Yeah, the one that played Scout. Yep. Yep. So there's a lot. I'm not a big Aliens fan, so November is not a big thing for me. But October, I kind of don't really know which one I'm going to be able to get, because when you're working, it's you can't stand in line for like 5-6 hours, and they have a lot more than this time. They had what, 5 that were big names. They almost everybody is a big name pretty much in October, so there's going to be some really long lines.
I saw someone commented in the chat, no Jamie Lee Curtis. I believe Jamie Lee Curtis did one convention ever, and from my understanding, her agent, I'm not sure if it was Sean Clark was her agent, but basically went to like 5 big cons. I think Monster Mania was one of them, one down in Texas, Horror Hound, and basically is like, pitch it to me. And I forget where she ended up going, but basically what sold her was they basically said all the money they're going to make, they were going to donate to some foundation, and that like sold her on it. But if you want her autograph, I know if you go on her Instagram, she has a website where every once in a while she'll put up signed prints from Halloween that she'll personalize, but they're pretty expensive. So be warned on that. It's not like Robert Englund where, if you just want his autograph, you could just buy one on his website or send something in and you don't care about meeting them. Jamie Lee Curtis, she's a hard one. But John Carpenter comes out. He's been coming out more, so that's good if you're a Halloween fan or a fan of any of the amazing work he's done.
Yeah, you have to understand some of these that are big names that are, constantly working and stuff like that. If they do go to a con, you're paying anywhere between $300 and $500 just for an autograph with no quote. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger was $500 a pop when he went up to Canada. So, I am fine with my low budget, B-rated, movie actors. I'm fine with that. I mean, I did like seeing Henry Winkler. I wish I had gotten more time with him. It wasn't anything to do with Monster Mania. It was more the person that was, in charge of taking the money and stuff like that. We're gonna be finished up. So yeah, that happens sometimes though. But in general, I didn't even see Juliette Lewis because I'm like, she's I really don't want to stand in their line. You know, there were a lot of other people that I did choose to stand in their line, or I waited until the end. That is a perk that some of them will discount, some of them won't. Ashley Lawrence, I paid full price for her, even on, you know, minutes before the ends when she was signing shirts. I was like, I don't want you to sign my shirt. I want to wear my shirt again. But you know, it kind of, you kind of have to understand that sometimes you're not going to be able to see the big stars, and actually because they just don't do it.
And you gotta wait. Like
Yep.
usually,
Okay.
like I try to get there extra early to meet the big stars. So when I met Michael C. Hall from Dexter, I think I showed up on Saturday at like 4 a.m. and waited outside and met him at like 11:30. So, but then I had the rest of the day there, where other people show up like at 7, try to meet them, and they're waiting in the room all day, and they complain that like they didn't get to meet anyone else. Like, you gotta put the time in it. I mean, and I know some of the celebrities, they pick their own pricing. Like Shatner, she was saying is 100 plus, but then Doug Bradley's been doing this for how long? I believe he's still $40 for an autograph and a selfie and does quotes. Like, you can't beat that.
Yeah. So we're going to be wrapping up and everything. I really enjoyed the talk and everything. I do want to make one comment. Yes, Jaggers 0718. That was actually the March Con. Brad and his daughter showed up, and they were basically the headliners. So just keep on watching the fan page, Monster Mania fan page. If you ever do want to go, they have Cherry Hill, Baltimore, and also Oaks. That's the November show coming up. Baltimore is the October show. So we are going to wrap up and everything. Fuzzy is going to do the outros. Give me 1 second. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys. All right. So we'll start off with Web Dave. Tell everybody where they can find you. And once again, thank you so much for being a part of this episode. Greatly appreciate you coming out tonight. Let everybody know where they can find you on social media or other podcasts that you may be on as well.
Oh, dude, thank you so much for having me, dude. I'm a big fan of horror, and I'm a big fan of course, of Fuzzy and his wife. You guys are awesome, and this is going to be fun. And again, keep at it, keep the hard work up, because it's going to be worth it, man. You guys are going to keep growing this, and I think it's great. A lot of people love this genre. Maybe one of these days I can get you hooked up to my a friend, childhood friend, Dave Snyder, who is a makeup effects artist that has actually worked on some of these movies we've talked about.
Oh,
he
wow.
would be good to be on, because he's got some crazy stories. I'll tell you that right now. But yeah, man, thank you so much. It's at WebDave on YouTube and pretty much anywhere. And yeah, Gamers Council on Sundays. And yeah, there you go. Thanks, guys, for having me. Loved it.
Once again, thank you so much for joining us. Silent Cypher, thank you for making a reappearance here as well. Greatly appreciate having you on. Tell everybody where they can find you as well, and what other podcasts they can find you on.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. Hopefully I didn't scare you away this time, and hopefully I'll get to come hang out with you again in the future. It's always fun hanging out with you guys. I love talking about these different movies, and I love the fact that the last couple times that you've had me on, they've been movies I've never even seen. So it was awesome to get to find some new movies that I'd never really even seen or heard about, dove into. And yeah, it's been great. And I think you guys are doing really good. I look forward to seeing your guys' progression as you get more comfortable with it moving forward too. As far as where you can find me, you can find me on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Xbox International Podcast. Currently working on a very special guest for this coming Wednesday. Can't reveal it just yet because I'm finalizing the details, but the person did just have a big project that came up, that's kind of been on social media. And I look forward to talking to them about that and getting some insight on some of what they've been messing around with. Um, besides that, honestly, I think that's probably about all you're going to see me for about 2 weeks. I'm going to be out and about on the go, a little bit of travel right before the kids go back to school.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think that's about it. Thanks again for having me. And yeah, hopefully we can do this again soon.
Oh, yeah. Always awesome having you on. Thanks again for taking the time and joining us tonight.
Absolutely.
All right. Presto Beaches. Let everybody know where they can find you, whether you want to give out your gamer tag or the main social media places that you hang out at, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, wherever. And, just let everybody know if they wanted to reach out to, continue a conversation on either gaming, horror, or otherwise, where they could reach out to you at.
So the whole Twitter thing, or X, or whatever you want to call it nowadays, I'm very new at that. Like I said, mentioned, I joined in like 2013, but I didn't do anything with it. So I wouldn't even give out that one. Instagram, I'm MRomanition, MROMANYSHYN1. So you can find me on there. I guess now I did this once, I should get more active on there also. So yeah, I'm newer at this stuff. But yeah, thanks for having me. I had a blast.
Did an awesome job for your first time on a podcast. So greatly appreciate you taking the time, and we'll definitely talk about future episodes as well. And my favorite co-host here, go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you.
Okay, he's buttering me up for something. Anyway. You off now?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's buttering me up for something. I'm not sure what, but he is. So it's just Ferocious Fee. You can find me on YouTube. If you want to subscribe, that's great. Also, I'm on Twitter, Ferocious Fee, as well. If you guys want to ask a question or something like that, or if you want to email me for suggestions or anything like that, you can ferociousfee78@gmail.com. Okay. And 5 people means a little bit longer, so I do apologize for going almost 2 hours.
Went by fast.
That was fun. I don't mind it. We're used to 2 hours or longer with our show, so this is a comfort zone.
Well, this was an awesome conversation on horror stuff and just stuff in general. So greatly appreciate you guys hanging out with us. And as always, you can find me on Twitter or X, or even on Xbox or PlayStation. Just do a search for Fuzzy Belvedere. I'm pretty much everywhere these days. So you can find me on any of those social media platforms or consoles. And everybody have a great night. Check out a horror movie tonight if you haven't in a while, or just tune in to Tubi, Amazon, or Netflix, and just let the service pick the next horror movie for you, kind of deal, and just have a good weekend, have some popcorn, and have some fun. Everybody have a great night. Take care.